And welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Go straight into the screen share here. We are, of course, on Parsha vaYishlach. It seems to me every year we just race through these books, and gosh, I think we're more than halfway through Genesis already, so doesn't seem to take very long. So here we are. So what's happened to this point is Jacob and Esau have met up. It turned out to work out much better than perhaps Jacob had possibly anticipated. And at this point, they're about to depart. So here we go. Vayomer nis'a v'nelecha. This is Esau speaking here. He says, Vayomer, he said, nis'a, let's journey, v'nelecha, and let's go together, ve'elcha lenegdecha, and I will go along with you. Let's take a look at some grammatical points here, right? Nis'a. So Rashi is interested in the fact that the nun in front of a word often refers to a first person plural, let us, right? And yet the root is, as he's going to tell us, is nun samach ayin. That nun is actually part of the root of this word. Linsoa means to journey. So, and also this hey at the end of the words. These are interesting little factors. So he says this is similar to other similar verb forms like sham'a, right? Or salcha, shehu kamo shema, which is actually, even though this hey it's sort of perhaps we could say it's a more poetic form of the verb that simply says, it means the same thing as shema, listen, slach, forgive, afkan. So here we had, right? So I'm going to guess if it's in fact pointed the same way, so it should be, I don't think it's shim'a. I don't have vowel points in here to help me.
So
Right?
mine says the first one where you translated it as listen.
Yes.
It says shama'a.
Yeah, okay, shma'a.
And
Thank you.
this one says shema.
Yes, this one is shema.
First one that says salacha. This
Yeah,
one says salach.
right. Thank you. So this is, he says it's like shema and slach. Afkan, nisa'a, right?
Nis'a.
Nis'a. Kamo, it is similar to nisa.
Nis'a.
Yeah. Nisa?
Nis'a, yeah, with a
So with a
shva.
shava underneath? Thank you. So he says, v'hanun yesod, and the nun is part of the root, bateva, in the word. V'tirgum shen unkelos, right? And if we look at unkelos's translation, natil v'nehach. So there we go. Let us go and let us take up, I think it means, and let's go. Esau amar leYaakov. So Esau said to Jacob, V'nasa minkan v'nelech, right? Let's journey from here and let us go.
So, and mine says the way they
Pointed it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It says tul un. This is hard to pronounce.
V'nehach. It isn't v'nehach or nehach.
No. Un with a shva, and then a hey with nothing, and then a chaf safit with both a shva and a one, a plain vowel, not a kamatz, the other one.
A patach.
Yeah. So maybe ha.
Okay, so I'm showing you, if you look at the text, here it is in Onkelos. And the way they've pointed it is nital v'nehach. You can see quite clearly there, right?
Okay, yeah, and this is just render, and this says therefore Onkelos renders and says something completely different, but it doesn't matter. It's just the point.
Right,
And
right.
so,
They may have a different text. Okay, all right. So, va'elcha lenegdecha. Uh,
oh,
and I will travel along with you, right? I think it is bishavelach. In other words, alongside of you, right? At the same pace. Shavem is equal, is what it means, right? In other words, just like you. Tova zo, this benefit eselacha, I will do for you. Esau is saying to Jacob, she'arich yemei mahalachti, that I will extend the days of my journey, lalechet la'at, to journey slowly, ka'asher atat tzarich, just as you have to. Vezehu lenegdecha. So this is, you see, sometimes neged can mean opposite or in opposition to, but here it doesn't mean that. It just means beshavelach, alongside of you, is how Rashi's explaining the Hebrew. Because remember, we always have in the back of our minds the competition and the hatred that Esau had borne for Jacob. And we want to be sure not to pull out any such implications. And Rashi is making that very clear, that the Hebrew is not implying anything other than, the fact that Esau wants to do a favor for Jacob. So let's see what the response is. Vayomer elav. So Jacob said back to him, he responded to him, Adoni, my Lord. Yodea, okay, my Lord knows, ki hayeladim rakim, that the children are tender, v'hatzon v'habakar alot alai. And so it's interesting that the alot here, alot has several meanings that here it means that they are young, right? So he says the sheep and the calves or the cattle are nursing is what he means, or are very young. Alai, and they're my responsibility. In other words, I have a responsibility to take care of them. Udefakum yom echad, and if I drive them hard one day, vametu kol hatzon, all the sheep will die. Rashi on this clearly. Alot alai. So the Hebrew is sort of an interesting what the alot means. Hatzon v'habakar, so Rashi explains, the sheep and the cattle, shehem alot, which are nursing, mutalot alai, they are placed upon me, lin halan la'at, to drive them slowly. And now he takes this word alot. That's the sort of key, interesting, let's say, word that's going on. So, megadlot olalehen, they are raising their infants. Lashon, and he says this is similar to the language used in Eicha, the Book of Lamentations, chapter 2, Olel v'yonek, where it's referring to the cruelty perpetrated on the yonek would be a suckling. Olel, again, is it a parallel to a nursing child or an infant? And I think he's going to give us that word possibly later on. We'll see. It's coming up. Another example in Isaiah 65, Ol Yamim, right? In other words, young of days, I believe, is the context here. And then in Samuel, the first book of Samuel, chapter 6, Shte Parot Alot, right? This, I think, has to do with an offering of some kind. Two young cows or two nursing cows. Balaz, and he says in French, right? Here we go. Enfanteuse. And the Yiddish bekindelt. In other words, again, bekindelt, child, right? You can hear kind. So very young. Udefakum yom echad. In other words, if I press them, if I push them one day, another version in Rashi that says ve'im yidafkum yom echad, and if they are driven one day too hard. liga'am, meaning to tire them out, or liga'am baderech, bimrutza, in other words, to tire them out on the way, bimrutza, because it's speedily, driving them speedily, umetu kolatzon, all the sheep will die. So again, Rashi sort of trying to drill down a little bit on these words that are not so clear anyway. Udafakum, right? Kamo kol dodi dofek. This is he says udafakum is similar to the voice of my beloved knocks, is knocking. So interesting, because this isn't sort of an obvious explanation of the word here, where we're saying it means, pushing them hard. So he says nokesh badelet. It means to knock on the door. So I don't know if it means urging, right? The idea of knocking on a door. So maybe the way he would translate this is that if I urge them, and I think that now brings that together with this dodi dofek, that my beloved is urging to try and see me. So again, trying to explain a word that simply means to knock, but how it's connected here in this particular sentence. Ya'avor na Adoni, let my Lord pass by. Lifnei Avdo, before his servant. Look at, by the way, it's so interesting how Jacob is speaking in such, with such humility to Esau. Such a difference, right? This 180-degree turn away from the whippersnapper kind of kid he was and how he treated Esau. And there's commentary about this, and we may have mentioned this previously, that there are those who say that Jacob actually paid a heavy price for his treating Esau this way. But if he was sincere and was just trying to be respectful and to show Esau a great deal of respect, because that's obviously what's going on here, despite the fact that there clearly are issues going on. It's, I think, actually a very interesting illustration, of two people who are, quite opposite and perhaps actually would have serious problems, but trying to communicate in a way that isn't going to create problems. So, because he doesn't want to go with Esau. He does not want to do it, but he doesn't want to insult Esau. Esau's trying to be very nice, and Jacob is not comfortable with it. And this is how he's reacting. So there's some interesting dialogue going on in the Torah here. Va'ani et nahala le'iti, and I, so he says, please go on while I will guide them in at the et l'regel hamalacha. The et means, I think here he's talking about according to their pace of the work. Literally malacha means labor, but meaning essentially the situation with the sheep and the cattle and the children. That is the responsibility. I think we could translate it that way. Asher lefanai, which is before me, uleregel hayeladim, and according to the pace of the children, ad asher avoel Adoni Seira, until I arrive to my Lord in Seir. This again, Rashi's going to comment on all of this. That's this interesting response. So, Ya'avor na Adoni, let my Lord pass. Al tarich yemei halichatcha. He says, please do not extend the days of your journey. Period. Avor kefi darkecha, pass by in your way, in the way you have to go. Va'af im titrachek, and even if it turns out that you're a far distance from me, don't worry about it, he says. Please, just bear in mind what I have to do, and I really don't want to hold you up. And I think said in, of course, a respectful and nice way. Et nahala. So, et nahel, right? He says, so this hey at the end, he says, I will drive them. I will, yes, hey yetera. This is an extra hey, kamo erda eshma'a. So again, this is more of a literary figure, I would say, and a way to sound a little bit more poetic, a more poetic way of saying etnahel. Le'iti, le'et sheli, right? Le'at sheli, lashon nachat. So he says, at my pace, the le'et iti, le'et sheli. Lashon nachat, it means at a gentle pace, at a slow pace. And here we go, haholchim la'at in Isaiah, another example, who journey slowly in a gentle pace. Again, Samuel, second book of Samuel, chapter 18, it looks like. So, la eight li la na'ar, which means deal gently with the youth for me. Le'iti, so le, as we know, always, well, it means very often when it's a prefix like this, is a prefix meaning to, but he tells us this is not what it means. Halamed min hayasod. So again, just as he had said about the nun before, he says here the lamed is part of the root of the word. The eina mishameshet. It is not to be understood as a prefix, right? To serve as the word to. So the et means just slowly. Et nahel nachat sheli. I will drive them along at a gentle pace, at my own gentle pace. L'regel hamalacha. So again, lefi tzorech, in other words, according to the need, halichat raglei hamalacha. So again, according to the pace of this responsibility, malacha means the work. In other words, the work of herding that he has with the flock and with the cattle, and also, of course, with the children. Hamotelet alai laholich. That is placed upon me. That is my responsibility to take them along. So I have to go according to the pace that my responsibility demands of me. L'regel hayeladim, and again, according to the pace of the children. Lefi raglehem, so using the Y, does it use the word regel, which means a foot? Lefi raglehem, according to their feet, according to their legs. Shehem yecholim lalech, that they are capable of going. So I have to adjust my pace according to the animals and according to the children that I'm responsible for. I have to adjust my pace for them. Ad asher avo el Adoni Seir, until I arrive at my Lord in Seir. Now, we'll see. There's a problem. Do we ever read about Jacob showing up at Esau in Seir? Do we ever do that? And the answer is no, we don't. So, hirchiv lo haderech. So he says, this is Jacob who put a large degree of separation between himself and Esau. He, in other words, stretched out the way, literally, I guess we could translate it. Shelo hayad da'ato lalechet, because it was not in his mind. He had no intention to go ela ad Sukkot. He only intended to go as far as Sukkot. He never really, so he was just trying to make an excuse, I suppose, right? Amar, right? So he thought, im da'ati la'asot, im da'ato, I think, la'asot li ra'a. So he was suspicious. Jacob was suspicious of Esau. He says, if he has in mind to do some evil to me, yamtin ad bo'oi etzlo, at least let him wait until I get to him. Vehu lo halach. So he didn't go. He didn't go. But did he lie? And the answer is, according to Bereshit Rabbah, that technically he didn't. So when is he going to go? He just says, I'll come to you some stage. Didn't say when. Okay. When yelech? When will he go? Bimei HaMashiach, when the Messiah comes. Shinemar, as it says in Obadiah, the prophet Obadiah, chapter 1, and it looks like verse 21. Ve'alu Moshiim B'Har Zion. This is a verse that is often quoted. And saviors or redeemers will arise in Mount Zion, lishpot et Harisav, to judge the mountain of Esau. Midrash Agada, Midrashe Agada. There are many interpretations, Midrashim, Yesh Parsha Zo Rabim. Many. There are many Midrashim on this particular passage, and certainly on this particular verse. Going on. Vayomer Esav, and Esau said to him, Atziga na imcha, let me post with you, min ha'am, from the men, the people, asher iti, who are with me. So I believe he had 400 men, and he said, let me post them with you, vayomer lamazeh. And so Jacob says to him, why? Why do you need to do this? Or lamazeh emtzachen be'inei adoni, or he says, why is it that I am finding such favor in your sight? How is it possible that you are rewarding me in this way? Okay, so again, very diplomatic, right? Vayomer lamazeh. So he's Rashi, and he says, lamazeh, why this? Lamazeh ta'aseli tovazo. Why are you doing me this great favor? She'eni tzarich la, which in fact I don't require it. Emtzachem be'enei Adoni, let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord. V'lo tishalem li ata shum gemul. And he says, please you don't need to do any favor for me at this, or kindness at this particular point. Going on. Vayashov bayom hahu, and on that day, sorry, I'm going to keep going. Vayashov bayomahu Esav ledarcho seira. And Esau returned on that day on his way to Seir, Here we are. Vayashov bayomahu Esav ledarcho. And Esau went back on his way to Seir. So again, it just says Esav. It just says Esau. And according to Bereshit Rabbah, Esav levado, that the Torah is saying that Esau did this all by himself. He was alone. Va'arbama ish shalchu imo, and as for the 400 men who went with him, who had accompanied him, nishmatu me'etzlo echad echad. They dropped off from accompanying him one at a time. Slowly they went back. And where were they rewarded for this? For the fact that they didn't want to associate with Esau anymore. Remember, they'd initially come to attack Jacob and his family, and now they didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. Bimei David, during the days of King David. Shenemar, as it says there in Shmuel Aleph, first book of Samuel, chapter 30, Ki im arbama ot ish, except for 400 men, na'ar, young men, asher rachvu al hagamalim, that journeyed on that rode on the camels. So this was a matter of a defeat that King David was able to accomplish, but they let go these 400 men who were riding the camels. So that's where the 400 and the 400 comes in again. Vayashov, onwards, Yud Zayin, 17. V'Yaakov nasa Sukkota. So here we go. And Jacob journeyed to Sukkot. Vayiven lo bayit. And it says there he built, literally it means he built a house. Ulemiknehu asa Sukkot, and he made booths for his cattle. Al kain kara shem hamakom. Obviously, it's going to have to be Sukkot. And for this reason, that particular locale was called Sukkot, booths. But so what is this Vayiven lo bayit? He built a house. Shaha Sham. So it was a house as opposed to a tent, right? Because he tarried there, he stayed there, Yud Chet Chodesh, for 18 months. Kayetz v'chorech v'kayetz, summer, winter, and summer. Sukkot Kayetz Bayit Chorif. So he made booths for the summer, a house for the winter time, Sukkot Kayetz, and again the summer, the booths. So what he's pointing out is the way this works out, right? So here we go. We've got he built a house. We have the word Sukkot here, and we have the word Sukkot again at the end of the sentence. And how come it's mentioned so many times? And that's the idea of the Sukkot. The booth is actually a summer place. It's supposed to protect you from the rays of the sun and from the heat of the sun. And so it's mentioned twice, and that's how we know it was 6 months of summertime and 6 months of wintertime, because it only mentions by it once. And we will stop here and pick it up again at our next lesson. So,
When
yeah, go ahead, please.
with the talking about the being in Seir, that he was not going to go till the days of the Mashiach.
Yes, yes,
And we probably talked about this another time, but Seir is one of the designations of characteristics that separated Jacob and Esau.
right,
Esau was Seir, was hairy,
right,
and Jacob was not.
right.
And so it sounds like what he's talking about is staying away from Esau in not just as a person, because they just had this kind of conversation. Okay, they were kind of meeting, you go ahead, but to stay away from the whole totality of Esau-ness.
I agree. I agree. So it has to do, if I,
Until the
sorry if I,
time of Mashiach, when these two mortal enemies will either be, one will be judged and killed, or there will be some kind of unity.
right, right, or right, because we also, in the Aleinu, for example, that we hope that wickedness will come to an end, and that people who are maybe acting wickedly will change their manner. So what I was thinking about was the idea of what are the connotations of hairiness, and whether or not the fact that hair hides things, and also possibly the idea of brute force, that kind of connotation, that we should not, neglect the idea that there's a lot of literary connotations that go along with these kinds of things.
Yeah, sort of more of a beast as opposed to
Yes.
rising above your beastly
Correct.
urges,
Correct. Yeah,
which
I
is,
think you nailed it. Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And that yeah, there's still a lot of subtlety and irony, in this meeting and this conversation and this very diplomatic connection between Esau and Jacob. It's got a lot of how can I say it, subtleties to it as to Esau's relationship to Jacob, and especially that we can't forget that they're twins, that they're twins. So, I mean, we could go along another line, which we sometimes do. So, for example, when we talk about destroying the Amalekites, and what we're really talking about is to destroy the Amalekite in oneself, right? The part that takes advantage of you, to be able to overcome that. And likewise, whether there's the Esau part inside of all of us, and that, and that on the one hand, to try and totally destroy it isn't necessarily the way to go, but to try and find a way in which to, I don't know, I don't even know if accept is the right way, or negotiate with it, or just be able to recognize we are certainly physical, part of a physical world, and the ability to find a way in which to negotiate that in a
Well,
way
I
that
think that they're fraternal twins because they don't look alike
yes,
and they
correct.
don't have character. Whereas Nick is an identical twin, and
Yes.
there's a lot of pull and tug with that relationship. And
Mhm.
I've been wondering whether it would be worse with fraternal twins or better, because the fact that they reflect each other more if they're identical may
Yes.
have positive or negative, depending on psychologically, or they, you know, upset about their reflection, or do they identify more with their reflection? But if you're a fraternal twin, you know that you came out at the same time, you know you share this time, this space, this birth, this life, and yet you're not alike. That might also be a point of more contention, you know, and especially with the father favoring one or the mother favoring one, and parents, whether they admit it or not, always have favorites, and you can't not know that. You know,
Yes.
you unless you know are mentally denying it, but they can't help but expressing it, even if they try to damp it down and be fair. They can't, because they can't not express who they love the most. And with twins, that that would make it more, you know, psychologically intense. And I'm surmising that maybe with fraternal twins even more so.
So Rabbi
That may be
Sachs,
wrong.
Rabbi Sachs has, we read recently an interesting article from Rabbi Sachs's website about the character of Jacob. And he points out there's another scholar whose name escapes me, who talks about that in some ways in those early years, is Jacob actually wanting to be Esau? That when you look at his behavior and how he tries to replace Esau, is it because somewhere inside of himself, he really is jealous of Esau and wants to, wants to be him and has to
But
learn.
now, no.
Yeah, right,
It's
correct. Now, no,
now, no. Now he doesn't want to go towards Esau-ness.
correct,
And
correct.
he this is post Levon.
Absolutely,
Yeah, so that's when he grew up.
right, exactly. The Lavan experience is a watershed for him,
And
definitely.
that's when he realized, and the wrestling with the Ish, and but he
Right.
realized that he's his own person and that he's a worthy person, and
That's
that if he's going towards Esau, that's not the direction he needs to be going.
right. So the idea of Jacob being, I mean, this is all from Rabbi Sachs and his reference here that Jacob, which means to supplant, has that implication of wanting to take the place of, whereas Yisrael is, as it were, overcoming that and being able to master that. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and God willing,